What is hypercycle? Hypercycle enables AI systems to communicate and collaborate efficiently. Currently, this process is slow and costly. Hypercycle improves this by offering a secure global connection system with verifiable identities without depending on centralized parties. It provides a safe platform for AI to interact directly without intermediaries. For more information, go to hypercycle.ai.
My name is Nick Black. I'm here with Toufii Saliba. This is This Week in Hypercycle, which we do. Sometimes we do it every 6 days, sometimes every 8 days. It kind of just depends on where in the world we can locate, like where's Waldo, where's Toufii?
Right.
What's going on, Toufii? What can you tell us?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Nick. Yes, it is 8 days this time, or maybe even 9, but a lot been going on in the last 9 days. As you know, there's so many cool stuff that they're happening a lot faster than we ever thought, and there's certain things that they go a little bit slower than I want them to go. Perhaps we can talk about some of the things that they are going a little bit faster, which is something that I've mentioned early October when I was in Geneva and heading to the airport and on this show. And at the time, it was supposed to be like a stealthy project that we might be doing with one of the health tech companies there. And it seems that it is coming quite rapidly into fruition, and it's going to have a duality in its existence, and it's going to be called the Hyper Ring. So the Hyper Ring is another baby that is going to be amongst many of the babies that we have with the Hypercycle, and it's effectively a ring, like people would wear the ring. It adds this extra layer of security, as you know that sometimes people, they talk about like the two-factor authentication or whatnot. But in a decentralized world, you kind of need certain things that they are not just dependent on people, but it's also certain things that people have. While if they were to lose this ring, it is not going to jeopardize anything that they have. And with that, it's going to strike two partnerships. One is with the health tech, another one is with the micropayment company that they are already embedded in about 40 decentralized small to medium sized companies and 40 big banks or whatnot. They will be making those announcements coming soon. So it would be nice to let this community know a little bit ahead of time of what's coming next. You might have noticed that the press release of that we've done with Hyper Appliance came from the actual manufacturing that which is Planet Computers, and I think it might have come out yesterday. If not, it's probably coming today or tomorrow. And this is the thing that we talked about back in another time when I was in Geneva at the AI for Good Summit that started the whole thing, where we ended up with a Hyper AI box. As you all know, Hyper Appliance is its own company. But with us, with Hypercycle, we've been doing this phenomenal deal where we end up partnering with folks in getting a huge percentage in those companies. So yes, we will have 30% to vest in the Hyper Ring as well. And we already started vesting the 30% with Hyper Appliance. And it's...
But wait, real quick. So what does Hyper Ring do? So I put it on and then what?
So the Hyper Ring is effectively... I will not disclose all the details with the Hyper Ring, but it adds an extra layer of security. It is a ring that it's like waterproof, almost indestructible, almost fireproof. Certain temperature fire can destroy it, but it's a ring that you can basically tap and do what you want to do with your let's say you're trying to get some of the money from your Hyper AI box that you've generated or whatnot, that you want to get it out, but you don't want someone to hack into it and get that money out because you worked so hard to build that hyper AI box, whether it is a small of $3,000 box or whether it is big, $1 million, you still care about the actual money that is generating because it's you work so hard for that. So it gives you that extra layer of securities.
So
That's
it's like a safe ATM card for your hyper AI box, maybe for like revenue that you've generated. You want to go buy a Ferrari.
Right, right, exactly. And then from our perspective, this seems to be really good and very well aligned with all of the stuff that we're doing now. But the partners, what they are trying to do with it, like for example, the health tech company, they have 7 channels in Africa to enable people with their health record. Okay, yeah, maybe
Mm.
that's related to AI directly, but if you were to think about it, why did these guys come to talk to us in the first place? They also want to channel some of their AI compute into hypercycle, and we feel like, well, if we're going to be in bed with them in that, then we can do all the other kinky stuff, and then one of them is that having that to ring, and it's and effectively it's a great thing that we can utilize to get it en masse to a lot of people. They really think that they can get it in the hands of over 100,000 people in 2024, but that's just like the health tech on its own. And then the micropay came into play as well very recently, and we're not in this at all, as you know, that like hypercycle, we're just like dealing with machine to machine. But as we're bridging from the world of Homo sapien to the world of like AI, there's a lot of potential for us Homo sapien to monetize on and to embrace and take piece of that future and own piece of that future. In that bridge, that means there's a lot of people that they are partaking in this ecosystem that they want to ensure that certain things are secure. So we feel like if that's the case, that's fantastic. And if there's a company that is doing the micropay that they want to benefit from this hyper ring as well, why not strike a deal with them? Because they can also get the distribution into whatever what they're doing. Like uh, if all 40 channels on their centralized world and all 40 that they all come to deploy this thing, this means like we're talking about like billion people they're going to have this. Can we have a device that we can actually produce in 2024 that actually propagate to 2 billion people? And the answer is like yes. Like I want to be able to build things that can actually scale to that. Now, are we crazy to think that all of those that they're going to work? Of course that is crazy, but even if you get 1% of that, that's still a lot of distribution. So for us, we care to get that distribution in the hands of as many people as possible, because the future is looking more and more steady in a lot of people's brain that it is going to be AI compute, and enabling people to partake in that future. You need to add that extra layers of security, and then ensure that the distribution is very well, going at many different channels, whether it is health or whether it is. So imagine somebody gets it to do their health record, another person gets that ring to do their micropay. They have no idea what like hypercycle is, but then they know that this is like called hypershare. They might realize that this can be a great thing for them to partake in that future of AI compute.
Well, not to mention, I mean, at the code level, a lot of people may or may not know this, but the hypercycle, the native token, is a good wrapper for currency transactions.
Correct. And we deliberately decided not to get into that battle for many, many reasons. Well, I can tell you 2 reasons that they are very, very transparent and apparent. A lot of people have been working with me for quite some time. One is for the centralized world. You feel like, why would you want to go and take a piece of like certain organization that is called like a bank or a government or whatnot, that they've been doing certain things in a certain way? It's an uphill battle. It's trying to go like head to head. Instead, we're trying to monetize on that future. To quantify things, IMF estimated the entire world is worth $3.2 quadrillion. That's today maybe $3.3 quadrillion now, by now, or, when I last looked, maybe 3 months ago. What does that mean? That means that like if you add all people's money, all bank accounts, all of their assets, their equity, their everything, stocks, everything together, 3.2 quadrillion dollars, right? Now, it's also, the estimate is that in about 6 years, this entire world is going to be $7 quadrillion. Okay, so there's that delta. It comes sometimes from inflation, but a big part of it's from wealth creation. If you are listening to me right now, you are part of that wealth creation. We are creating that wealth. Okay, if you are creating that wealth, perhaps it is a lot easier to take a piece of that as opposed to having to go and tinker with the 3.2 quadrillion. It's like, who's going to take a piece of that? In fact, the more you take piece of that, they are going to come to you and they want to take piece of that future because you're building that future. So, for example, when you talk about tilling, what is tilling? Tilling, it is wealth creation. And when somebody's going to come in and be like, I want to be part of you, like your tilling or whatnot, that you can welcome them because that future is a lot bigger than the past. So so that's why we deliberately decided not to. That's from one angle. Now I said two. What's the other one? In the crypto world, many of the crypto assets, they're being represented in a ledger base, similar to how the bank, they have a ledger. Yes, the ledger bank is centralized, the other one is decentralized, but it's still represented in a ledger. Now, if you were to come and tell them, you don't need the ledger, you can do it peer-to-peer in that wrapper that is called a TODA file, aka SATO server, which is the HYPC. HYPC is an actual container. Will you get yourself a partner or a competitor or an enemy? And the answer is like, you get an enemy, because if you're like, well, dude, like if I worked so hard to build that ledger, why are you going to come and tell me now that I don't really need this ledger? I don't want to fight with these guys. Those are my friends. And the other ones, they can be like, friends of my grandpa. Point is, they, we don't really, they can continue doing what they're doing. We can focus on what cannot be done with their technology, and they can be partners with us. What we know with 100% certainty cannot be done with their technology. If you ask any AI scientist, can you enable peer-to-peer for machine to machine without having to depend on a third party? And the answer is no. Well, since we do this and that's the future is going in that direction, why not point it in that direction and not focus on the previous stuff? Now, of course, when you start looking into how they want to channel in their micropay to take piece of that future or whatnot, and the smarter they are, the more they want to be pushing us forward as opposed to pushing us backwards. So now we've aligned ourselves to great partners as opposed to enemies. You see what I mean? It's like it's one of those things where maybe I did not see that 6 years ago. Maybe I did not see it 14 years ago when I took strike against the banks. But right now, as I grow, as we all grow, we feel like there's a better alternative and better future for all of us because there's a wealth that is being created. We can focus on that and make it better for future generations as opposed to fight on that the current ownership of the land.
Okay, I have to ask. 1155 update and splitting of the nodes.
Well,
where are we at?
The good news is the splitting of the nodes. I already received a video on it this morning where I instructed some of my guys to make it a nicer video on that. So this will be by the end of the day, tomorrow, whenever they're done, into having a nicer video. What does that mean? The capability is there. They need to provide you with a guide of how to do it. Okay, so that's what's coming today, tomorrow. The 1155, however, the ability to actually have the split and take your level 2, level 8, or whatever, like how many you have in your bundle, to marry it, the capability is there. The audit came phenomenally successful. The guide on how to use it will be after the splitting. So the splitting will have the guide, show you how to do it. The other one will follow shortly after. Now, I have to say that it is going to follow shortly after, and whatever what you're going to see out there to enable you to do the marriage may not necessarily be the most user friendly in its early initiation. But as it progresses to become more user friendly, it becomes more and more adopted. But if folks, they manage to follow the guide and they're able to do that marriage somehow, especially if it's significant. If you're talking about, like, you have 524,288 HYPC, you want to marry them, it is significant to spend the amount of time and effort to do that marriage early on. So the capabilities are there. The ones that they do it sooner rather than later, they benefit from having the capturing of that tilling that's been happening for quite some time to start being passed to this thing that is called the hypershare. As a reminder to people, why would you want to have it in a hypershare as opposed to keep them separated? One of the benefits that hypershare provides is the ability to have exactly the same number of that you inserted in HYPC in both W and R. Those two tokens, they give you the ability to manage your assets a little bit better. The W, it's more like you have shares into your company. So hopefully, folks, they would realize that if they want to have that, that is going to be treated as security in most countries around the world. Try not to fight that. Just go with the security laws and do it. If you were to offer it, that W, follow the. Now, if you may not want to offer, same way as you have your own private company, you have your own shares, you may want to just keep them to yourself or to your other co-founders, whatever. If you're building like $1 million business starting in AI or $3,000 business, you might want to have some partners with you on that. The W enable you to do that. It's like you split the shares in the company. The R enable you to start giving the percentage for rev share. Why would you want a rev share? Well, if you run AI compute, do you want to have certain code that is running inside your thing that is more superior than other code, or certain code that is in high demand today that you may want to swap it next month? If that's the case, how do you split every second 0.01 cent that your machine is making? How do you split that? Well, this thing enables to have a marker, and that marker effectively, so let's say you give 25% of your rev share to the software code that you put into it, which could be an entity that you own that is buying even that code from Microsoft or Google or a small dev shop in Nicaragua or whatnot. It doesn't matter where that code is coming from. It needs to be paid some royalty. If it has 25% of that, there's a marker that says that they have 25% of that. So then the 0.01, the capability of like the HYPC is able to split it without having to touch any ledger whatsoever. It's able to split it accordingly and starts streaming. So whoever owns that, they get that stream of money going every second. The bigger your machine, the more that they get a bigger stream. So if they have that big stream of money, then chances are they're going to want to give you their code, even if it is a closed source. They might give it and run it inside your machine, so then they can monetize on it accordingly. So that's basically why the hypershare is super awesome for people to jump into it early on. And
so now it's just a matter of days now.
Correct.
Hey, we're getting people still. I know people get antsy, and I think, I know that you're very busy and, you've got to be in a million places, but I think maybe my final thought would just be that we're still many, many, many months ahead of where we were proposing to be last May. So when this all started, we were not planning to be where we are right now. So while some people might be frustrated, like, when can I marry my tokens to my license? Well, we're still half a year ahead of where we were going to be.
Right. And furthermore, I'd like to tell you with, I'm going to say it with, I don't want to say with 100% certainty, maybe 99% certainty, that all the other stuff that you hear that we're doing, that doesn't mean that it's slowing down this thing. We do compartmentalize very well. We run the threads in parallel and whatnot. Now, of course, why do I say 99% and not 100%? Because sometimes in the back of my mind, it's always be like, well, if I didn't focus on that hyper ring and I actually joined this engineering call that happened like 3 weeks ago with the auditor, maybe I would have like pushed it a little bit further and got it maybe a day earlier or whatnot. It's my nature being an engineer. That's how pretty much I think that I can perhaps help accelerate things. But at the same time, compartmentalization is actually really good in building systems, because you don't get too many cooks in a kitchen. You get like whoever is managing this, they're able to get it a little bit sooner. They just want me to be involved in decision making and whatnot. Not necessarily. My influence can be huge when it comes to architectural. Sometimes I can actually steer things in a certain way that can get you a shortcut. So look, I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff. It's looking like we're going to close this year with maybe 11 or 12 babies under us. It's this is not something that we've ever promised any of the people that came in this company. On May 8th, we never really said, oh, this company is going to have ownership into so many companies and grow those ownership, whatnot. This is all like plus, 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 plus. Yes, they're helping our distribution, all of this is great. The bottleneck, as I've stated for last few of these sessions with you, Nick, is that it's not necessarily bottlenecks. The focus of the company right now is on getting more and more AI compute early on. Why do I want this? Well, I want that by the time we're doing that release in the spring, to have months and months of actually proof points, so that you can have millions of users that are using some AI compute that they're being channeled through our ecosystem. And that thing that I said that it is coming in January is still coming in January. And in fact, there's multiple of them right now. They would add a lot of value to each and every one of you, because if you're partaking in building this future, you want to have more and more proof points that you can actually prove it to anybody, as opposed to just believing in it. Any one of the common things between scientists and non and and religious people and everybody's like, we all believe we can cross the street. Nobody knows you can cross the street. Once you cross the street, you know that you've crossed it. Beautiful. I want to get to the other side, and people that in the spring comes be like, oh, we've already done it. Oh, what I'm running is like some sort of like this machine. I bought it from these guys for like $1 million, as opposed to getting $5 million from other that I can buy them right now. But I got it for $1 million, and it is actually generating revenue, because it is getting piece of the AI compute that it's actually been done, as opposed to will be done. That what keeps me up at night. So the more we can get AI compute, the more we would treat it with priority, to the benefit of all of our customers. Our job in Hypercycle to make sure that the customers, they bought those things, that they are successful in showing those proofs. So that's the other proof that on a micro level, I would say, is that proof that I talked about is like if you're running like big machine. But if you're running a small machine like the Hyper AI box, don't you want to have some proofs that people are actually running it and doing they're actually, it is actually paying for their home electricity? Some people, they might say, dude, this thing paid twice for my home electricity. Some others, they're going to say it just paid for one appliance in the kitchen. Whatever it is, you need to see them. You need to actually witness them. You need to be able to talk to those people, be like, hey, you've been running this for a month or whatnot. So that's something that's also running in January. So then the first week of February, there will be some of those videos,
lots of data, lots
right,
of data points. Yeah.
like for example, you've seen the Hyper PG video to showcases like these guys for real. They're going to actual facility to look into computing centers, and then you've seen like the actual videos in hackathons, for example, with the Hyper AI box, and people are actually building on it and it's running. But it would be nice to start seeing now the actual people that they're running those things. What do they say about them? They plugged it in today. It's not doing anything today, but it'd be like, oh, look at that. In January, I see the meter. It's actually every second it's making me some money. And then February, they're there to tell you how much this thing made them in money and running into their kitchen. No, some people, they believe me, many people, they're actually in this ecosystem, they're running those things, not of how much it's going to make them the month of January, is because they truly believe they want this decentralized AI to be propagated across the globe, and they're willing to do it for years and years if necessary to actually get to that proof points. But people that they do it out of believe that this is a better future, we need them. But if we're able to get them economical elements that it can make sense economically, they're going to get their spouse to support that. They're going to get their partner to support that, their cousins, their children, their parents, and whatnot. And that's what keeps me up at night, getting those proofs. So,
Well, wherever you are, enjoy your holidays, and we will reconvene
in a week from now, or
in a week.
hopefully less.
All right.
I'm anxious to actually see those guides, Nick. Perhaps as soon as we have them, I'll ping you and we can have like this week on hypercycle, and we could perhaps like walk through them, because it would
that'd be great.
Would be awesome to do this.
All right, 11:55 coming, splitting coming, network coming, proofs are coming, and data is coming, and Christmas is coming.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time, Toufii. We'll talk soon.
You didn't say winter's coming, but that's winter's coming.
Well, I was a little bit on the nose, wasn't it?
I love it. I love it. All right. Take care.
See ya.
Ciao. Bye.
Do you trust your crypto assets to centralized exchanges that actively sell your private information and front-run your trades? Would you like to buy and sell your assets without any middlemen, intermediaries, or robots? Do you like paying slippage, fees, and having the price go up as bots steal from you on low-liquidity decentralized exchanges? The solution is nodemarket.io. Set your guaranteed buy or sell price. No middlemen, no slippage, no bots, ever. Buy or sell 1, 10, or even 10 million tokens, and you never have to worry. OTC trades are between you and the seller or buyer, guaranteed by audited smart contracts and no human middlemen. Nodemarket.io.